tax law has got two words, tax and law. So law is necessary everywhere. Tax can be added. Tax can be added, criminal can be added, constitution can be added, but law remains. So my point is that if you have passion for law means what? Analytical reasoning, analytical thinking. If you have passion for law, then tax can be added to that. So the point I am trying to convey is, unless you are clear about the CPC, CrPC, contract, arbitration, and basic aspects of constitution, unless you are not through with these things, nobody can ever do tax. Tax is very, very artificial thing. It's like that on the date of death, on the date of marriage of the girl, she is decked up like दुल्हन. तो वो एक अलग चीज़ है. But normal चीज़ें जो हैं, so first of all, your tax, you cannot do tax properly, well, without knowing civil law, without knowing criminal law, without knowing contract, without knowing arbitration, without knowing transfer of property act.
So you have a year of experience now in that. Okay. But he wants to go into tax law, so he wants to know basically how to start. So one is you will need practical skills of the tax work, right? And second, you'll have to start building your track record also. You should start writing articles, posting on LinkedIn. People should see you as a tax lawyer. You should be, right now, let's say right now, firstly you need to see if you have any brand of yours at all or not. Right? If I Google, what's your name you said? Abhishek Gupta. If I Google your name, what will come up on the internet? Will I see the profile of a law student? Will I see anything about you, or will I see some? Right. So if I do that, I should find enough about you that tells me that you are at least a budding tax lawyer, right? You have written 20 things on tax, maybe made some videos on tax, right? And obviously you need to know some skills. Otherwise, how will you project yourself? How will you build your brand? It will all be fake. It will not be credible, right? Your content will not be genuine if you don't have any skills and if you don't have any knowledge. So that is how you need to start. And then you need to start meeting tax lawyers, all law firms, and apply for opportunities there. You can also help startups with their tax needs. Many startups have problems with tax, but initial, so like you cannot move in-house with them. It's not a full-time kind of opportunity, but it's enough for you to get some initial track record so that you can later sit in an interview and tell a law firm or a counsel that you know the basics of tax.
For tax, if you don't know what the contract works, what the contract is, I give you an example, practical example. You cannot be a tax lawyer unless you know the contract act. I tell you a typical example. Every day we deal with these things that I purchase a property, somebody sells, or I sell my property, somebody purchases. Now that agreement to sell, there is an agreement. This seller agrees with the buyer. I sell this property. This is the description. This is the consideration. He will pay. He will buy. This is an agreement. This agreement has to be registered with the registrar. That is a conveyance. That is called conveyance. When you register it with the registrar, at that time you pay stamp duty. And after that registration of that conveyance deed or sale deed, you become the owner. The buyer becomes the owner, seller becomes he has got the money. You hand over possession. Here, first part, agreement to sell or conveyance deed, it is drafted. It is a pure contracting scheme, pure contract. One unscrupulous person may transfer you less than what you deserve, because property, whatever rights you have, you must transfer everything. Somebody can withhold some right. Somebody can add something which he doesn't have. That is also possible. So you have to be. Now, what I am trying to say, this is pure contract. Pure contract converted into civil law by conveyance deed. Once conveyance deed is there, then the buyer becomes the absolute owner. Nobody can dispossess him. Now, I come to, this is the pure civil law. I think all of you are with me.
Yeah.
No problem. Now I add income tax. Income tax is that there is an agreement to sell. In agreement to sell, I am the seller, you are the buyer. You have paid me money, I have received the money. I have handed over you possession. So you are living in that house. But you have not got the conveyance done. That registration. Because this is between you and me, nobody else knows. I have got the money, I am happy. You have got the property, you are happy. Now you do not get the registration done. In the process, what happens? The stamp duty of the government is lost. Income tax says by a deeming fiction that this will be also be a transfer. Therefore, even if you have not got the sale deed registered by paying a stamp duty, you, the seller, I am the seller, let us say I sold the property for 1 crore. I had purchased for say 30 lakhs earlier. So 70 lakh gain is there. After computation, let us say it comes out to 50 lakhs, whatever, after indexing and all that. So on 50 lakhs, I will be required to pay the tax.
Long-term capital gain.
Long-term capital gain or short-term, depending upon whatever it. What I'm trying to say, you cannot understand this transfer under Income Tax Act unless you know what is the normal transfer under the Property. Transfer of Property Act. Because that is natural, this is synthetic. I would say very bluntly. So taxation actually, let me just take you some basics.
So basically it has a relation with basic laws.
Everything basic. And life is dependent upon basics. Basics are dependent on basics. However, once my basics are satisfied, I become greedy and I act smart. So taxation is when you start doing business or income. What I mean to say, taxation has to do with economic laws. Today I am earning something from this Huda city center. I find that tomorrow there is another place nearby where the rent is much cheaper. I will immediately shift there. But you will not change your residential house like that. So economic laws are very dynamic. Taxation is part of dynamic laws. Income tax, competition law. These are dynamic.
Can you give some examples of specific kinds of work that you can do as a tax lawyer, say in the courts or for firms? Which are the areas that are very high value work? For example, for corporate taxation, there is more demand. It's more high paying than, let's say, individual taxation. Unless you are doing individual taxation for wealthy individuals or NRIs or directors of companies. Even those clients you get by getting a corporate client first.
I think you have already reached the destination, and I think I had yet not taken off. Because I was on the basics that fundamental law and then artificiality. So what I'm just to complete that, but I think you are with me. What I'm trying to say, you should have some idea of, there is something called Article 14 of the Constitution, equality before law. There is some kind of legislative lists are there in the Constitution, Schedule 7. That so these are the basics. Contract, as an example. Contract means what? Two persons voluntarily agreeing or disagreeing to do something. That is contract. You are free to do whatever, excepting criminal activities. So this basic, because these are the basics on which taxation is always superimposed. Now I can come to your question. So when you said that corporate taxation or individual taxation or personal taxation, now I would prefer, if possible for you people, to do general law plus taxation maybe together to begin with, so that you do not lose touch, or rather you gain touch with the general law, and then superimpose upon that your taxation skills. Because taxation without knowing the general law is absolutely, to my mind, impossible. Number one. Number two, another, this is very important. I didn't hear any of you as a chartered accountant. Chartered accountant.
I'm from CA background only, but I'm not cleared my CA finals.
But the intermediate you've done.
Yeah.
So you will do the final also.
I'm for CA finals also.
So eventually you will do that.
Yeah. I have partners.
Okay.
Was CA.
Now, why I am saying so? You must have heard in your law firm where you have experience. If you give some charts and numbers to a lawyer, normally a lawyer completely confused and he will never look at numbers. That is human nature. Numbers, charts. Yeah, we are lawyers. We don't consider numbers because we are concerned with the question of law. Now it is very easy to say that. So what I am trying to say, for taxation, you don't have the luxury of not loving the numbers. You have to be expert at numbers. You must love to see numbers. You must see the difference in numbers. How many zeros are there? It is million, billion, trillion, whether US dollar or British pound or Singapore dollar or Indian rupee. That kind of a, because without that you can't be a good lawyer.
But
good tax
advanced mathematical skills are not required. Only the willingness.
Let me just complete. But I am not saying that all of you must necessarily be a chartered accountant. I am not a chartered accountant even today. And I have never repented that I am not a chartered accountant, because I have got chartered accountants suspended from practice by ICAI because of the conduct I could discover from my whatever was filed before me. So for that, I would say, as a lawyer, I think accounting standards are there from the Chartered Accountant Institute, right? Now they are called Indian Accounting Standards and Old Accounting Standards. Ind AS is new one and old one is accounting standards. So all of you who has any liking towards taxation must, let me repeat, must digest by heart at least accounting standards. If you understand and accounting standards are beautiful, I would say, because accounting standards tell you the principles of law for accounting purposes. So without being a chartered accountant, you can beat a chartered accountant hands down if you know the accounting standards.